but it could become harder now that legal aid's been scrapped for the average divorce case.
Cordelia Kretschmar is at the Royal Courts of Justice today. Cordelia, good morning to you. What's the reason then for these cutbacks?
Well, first of all, this is nothing about saving marriages and all about saving money. I'm afraid the Justice Minister has been explaining recently that the Britain or England and Wales legal aid bill is £2 billion a year, one of the highest in the world. He says that's got to come down at a time when resources are so squeezed. So in future, legal aid will be cut for all family law cases. That's divorce and custody battles to me and you. So if you can't afford your own legal fees in future, the government will steer you towards mediation, which they say is quicker and cheaper. Now, the government's saying that this is going to save them £350 million a year in legal aid bills, but an estimated 200,000 people in England and Wales will miss out on funding for fighting family law cases. These will include divorce and child custody cases, which are now not covered for legal aid unless under exceptional circumstances. Those exceptional circumstances, of course, things like domestic abuse. So real concern that some of the most vulnerable, poorest families in failure, in states of breakdown, will suffer as a result of this.
Okay, Cordelia, thanks very much indeed. Well, Matt O'Connor is the founder of Fathers for Justice, and Denise Lester is chair of the Law Society's Children's Law Committee. Good morning to you both. Matt first. I mean, what kind of impact is this likely to have on fathers? Could it actually be beneficial in some ways?
Well, there is a kind of perverse justice to this in terms of the fact that most fathers don't currently receive legal aid under the old system. I think our concern, though, is that it's going to reduce the family courts down to the level of legalised cage fighting in terms of pitching parent against parent without representation, and I think that's our concern.
Do you think it means that some parents might stay together a bit longer, might try and work things out?
There may be some parents, and I would say to any parent who's thinking about going to the family courts, please don't do it. Please try and avoid going to court, because we think that the best way of resolving these things is outside of the court system, which is very brutal, very unfair and very unjust. We see 200 fathers a day lose contact with their kids in these courts at the moment. So our advice to people is please try and avoid the court system.
Well, it's brutal for both sides, isn't it? Not just
it
fathers,
is,
mothers
absolutely.
as well.
And I think the most important thing is the system is failing mothers, is failing fathers, most importantly, is failing children.
I was going to ask Denise. I mean, for me, the biggest worry, Denise, in all this is the children. And as we all know, when couples split up and divorce, often it gets very bitter over issues like custody. How will families fare when they haven't got a lawyer to step in and help mediate their way through that?
Well, inevitably, they should go to court and make an application to court themselves. I mean, the judiciary are very alive to the fact there's going to be a massive increase in litigants in person. The problem is that the government hasn't put in place any judicial, extrajudicial resource, and the courts are going to be clogged up with cases which desperately need to be case managed by lawyers, or whether you're acting for mother or father. The other worry is that leaving people just in a state of limping marriages can lead to an increase in domestic violence, can lead to an increase in the use of other agencies such as police and social services, potentially children being taken into care. So this is all a false economy by the government. Also, people going to the doctors for depression, and we've got the NHS changes this week. So there's going to be a massive transmuted spend across other social services sectors. And legal aid has also gone for advice on debt and housing and education. So at the end of it, you've got the children who are caught in the middle of this, and there is going to be an indelible corrosion on our general society as a result of these legal aid cuts, which the government has spent £9 million actually in implementing, which they could have used on frontline spend.
Let's just be clear, I mean, legal aid isn't going completely, but you're sort of talking like it's all going. It's not. It's still going to be available for things like domestic violence, and that is important.
Absolutely.
Well, I was just coming in there. There is an issue here, because under this new system, people will be incentivised to make false domestic violence allegations to get legal aid. It's the only way you can get legal aid. And our concern is that Denise is a lovely lady, but Denise and her colleagues have made a fortune out of family law over recent years by pitching parent against parent and making money out of this system. What we want to see is to take families out of the court system. Courts are for criminals, not for families.
I think there's inevitably going to be an increase in domestic violence cases because people will stay together, there'll be arguments, and they'll be stuck in a situation where they can't divorce and gain quick access. So, unfortunately, that's the situation. It's going to be the children that are caught in the middle as well.
Well, thank you both very much for coming in and sharing your
Pleasure.
views this morning. Thank you.
We'll find out how it's going to pan out, won't we?
Yeah, we certainly will. Well, still to come.